What's up, everyone? Today we're just talking about this thing about the Supreme Court. This for me, just because a lot of things I've been going through and finding out how things work and the troubles we end up in because of those who think they're higher than all of us. They must be higher than all of us, right? It resonates pretty good with me, so I have a little bit of opinion on it, so I wanted to talk about this for a minute and let you know what's going on with our Supreme Court, and to find out what your guys' thoughts is on it, and by all means leave your thoughts in the comments as we go along, as you're watching this, and let me know your thoughts and feelings about this. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Anyways, I'm gonna take this. There's several. It's all over the place. It's a pretty major news article, so you can find it on most of the major networks are reporting on it. But I'm taking this one that was sent to me from NPR.org. If you want to look it up for yourself, but here's what we got here. The Supreme Court adopts first ever code of ethics, right? So here we are with the Supreme Court. Let's think about this for a minute. The Supreme Court has finally, after over 200 years, has finally decided that they need a code of ethics. Where has this been all along? This should have been there in place all along. But as you can tell, there's one of the downfalls of the way our country works and the way our government works. And, there never was a code of ethics. But is it any good? Let's find out, So I'll read along some of this. You can follow along. The U.S. Supreme Court Monday adopted its first ever ethics code, bowing to pressure from Congress and the public. All 9 justices signed onto the new code, which was instantly criticized for lack of an enforcement mechanism. In an unsigned statement, the justices said, though there has been no formal code, they have long abided by certain standards, right? The absence of a code, however, has led in recent years to the misunderstanding that the justices of this court, unlike all other jurists in the country, regard themselves as unrestricted by any ethics rules. They wrote, "To dispel this misunderstanding, we are issuing this code, which largely represents a codification of principles that we have long regarded as governing our conduct." And, and then the news article goes back on to public trust in the court has fallen amid revelations that Justice Clarence Thomas received gifts and travel from Harlan Crow, a Republican donor. Justice Samuel Alito has also been criticized for failing to disclose a fishing trip with Paul Singer, a big Republican donor with cases before the Supreme Court. In recent weeks, Justices Amy Barrett and Elena Kagan publicly supported calls for an ethics code. So we'll hold on right there. Now, here's what we got here is a lot of this came about from Democrats getting upset about what's going on with these Republican justices receiving donations and high-paid trips and all kinds of expensive gifts and stuff like that, which, I'm not going to cut that down, but they're trying to make it look like it's just Republicans that do this, and that's not the case. And here's my biggest problem with the Supreme Court or any court is the truth is a judge should not be Democrat or Republican. A judge is supposed to judge on the law. But as we can tell, when you take it, these all come from every justice eventually came from a lower court. If you follow the chain of how things go, usually they started out as a lawyer, then they go on to become a judge in many cases, right? And as you can see, it doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, they're all corrupt. And especially the ones that start out as lawyers, they may say they're a Republican or Democrat, and really they're just, they don't care. They're going to violate the laws that best fit them, you know, no matter what side they're for. But my thing is, a judge, we're wrong for allowing a judge to subscribe to any, that they are on the side of any. You know, they should be on the side of the Constitution, on the side of the law, period. In fact, you know, I have a whole problem with this country, period, being Republican or Democrat. This is a republic with a Constitution, and all members of government should not be, oh, well, I'm tied down to this group, or I'm tied down to this group or this side. I'm Republican, I'm Democrat. No, it should go by the Constitution, period, and judges should go by the law, period. You know, if we'll get back into this some more, and then I'll explain a few more things. So what does the code say? With the release of the code Monday, the court is trying to be somewhat specific about what justices can and cannot do, but there is a lot they can do and no enforcement mechanism as to what they are supposed to not to do. Sometimes I got to wonder about people that write these articles, you know, how they word their stuff. It's hard to follow along sometimes, right? For example, the code is quite specific about financial transactions. Justices can make a real estate transaction as long as it's not before the court. But the code simply reaffirms the commitment to the disclosure provisions that are in existence code for all federal judges. You know, codes that are already there, right? The code is also specific about recusal if family members, such as spouses, children, or grandchildren, have a case before the court or is a lawyer before the court. Let's stop right there. Recusal, some people don't understand what that means, but recusal means they're going to take themselves off the case, right? And, you know, so where I come from on that and where I get my understanding on that is because for my own personal case, anyone that's followed along, the last time I submitted my motion to withdraw a plea, my second time around, right, I was before the judge, and the reason I had to do that is I took to him, I don't know where it is right now, but I had the disc that I had a compact disc where I had the recording of a voicemail call I had gotten that, you know, the judge was ordering me, they ordered me out of my case to attend a batter's assessment, according to, that's what their big investigation found, as I've proven already that that's all a big scam, right? And it turns out that, you know, some of this was the group they were using for the batterers thing, that here locally in this court, if anyone wants to accuse you of any kind of domestic violence, somebody calls the police on you and claims anything at all, they're going to nail you for, charge you for domestic violence, and the court's going to go along with it no matter how much you can prove that you're innocent. And the reason for that is because then they get you tied in. First they send you to jail, and from that jail they're collecting money because they're also partnerships owners of that jail. At least here in Northwest Ohio, that's the way it goes. Then, furthermore, as they're not supposed to, as my lawyer said, oh, you can take this assessment anywhere, this batter's assessment that they ordered you to take, you can take it anywhere, even online, when he's trying to talk me into the deal, right? So then after I agree to their crap and I go to try to do my assessment, they said, no, you can only do it here. So they gave me only option of two places I could do it. And one was out of Fulton County and one was out of Henry County, right? And what it is the judge is connected to these places. And because no matter what the person who, legal profession, or the, you know, whatever the professional, state professional that does your assessment, you know, I'm using this only as an example to help you understand this stuff, right? The assessment has, then that person who does the assessment then says, well, you know, you need further treatment, and so you should go to this course or you don't, right? And in my case, they said no. It was you didn't need the way they looked into all my stuff. No, I don't see no need for any further you to go any further treatment or anything, right? Well, then they called me back 2 days later and said, oh, we found a court paper with your recommendation to attend the batter's course, which is like however many weeks long and $150 each visit, right? And that's the point, is it was the judge's slush fund, and the judge didn't have a right to do that, to order me to do that. It was up to the person that did the assessment, but instead they turned around and said, well, we found a court, so I had that on voicemail, luckily, and I took that in, and the judge was trying to throw me in jail as soon as I showed up to court, and I was like, no, I don't think so, buddy, and I want this submitted. Well, because of that, I said, I'm going to resubmit my motion to withdraw a plea also, and because of that, he goes, well, if you do that, I may have to recuse myself from your case, right? But as it went along, he didn't recuse himself. Instead, he judged against me again. But that's what the recusal is. He's got something involved in it. Like here locally, that should be a mandatory thing, and he should have to recuse himself because either he's related to somebody or he's got something involved in it, right? Or there's a conflict of interest between you and the judge, right? But this judge he didn't recuse himself anyways. But anyways, that's them, for anyone who don't understand what that means. I just wanted to point that out, and then we'll get into some more stuff in a minute here. But now back down here. But the code also makes exceptions for justices that may not apply to lower court judges. For instance, a justice doesn't have to recuse if his or her relative files a friend of the court brief, because the court receives so many of these briefs, sometimes over 100 in a single case, and it has loosened the rules on these briefs being filed. In recent months, critics have raised concerns about Justice Thomas's wife, Virginia Thomas, excuse me, I'm sorry. Where was it? Virginia Thomas and her activities to promote political causes that end up before the court. The code says that if a spouse or child living with the justice has a substantial interest in the outcome of a case, financial or any other interest, the justice is supposed to recuse. That would have meant, for example, that Justice Thomas would have to recuse himself in cases in which his wife has played a major role. Last year, Thomas did not recuse and was the sole dissenter in a case about whether former President Trump's White House records had to be turned over to the House committee investigating the January 6th riot. Oh, yeah, whatever, right? At the U.S. Capitol, despite Ginny Thomas's text to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows urging him to take steps to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. Okay, so, I mean, that should go without saying, but they are above that. But Supreme Court justices are above that. Like, we're supposed to believe they're not going to side in favor with their own personal loved ones or people that's donating money. They should always, that should have been, there's no reason it should just now be coming out, but still that's not affected anyways. That's obviously a conflict of interest, and no judge should be a judge over any case in such a situation as that. If there's any kind of conflict of interest, that judge should not be allowed to be over that case, period, right? But, I mean, that should be common sense. But no, here the Supreme Court justices are immune from that. And then, okay, so down here we have, I'm going to skip over this. If you want to, this is the document from the Supreme Court regarding the code of conduct that they just came out with. And if you want to read that, there's quite a bit there. So if you want to read that, like I said, you can go to npr.org and find it on there. I'll leave a link in the description. Excuse me. But we'll go on with the news article. Others have raised concerns about Justice Sonia, I don't know how to say that name, Sotomayor's use of court staff in setting up her schedule and trips, including her book tour. Now the court's new code says that for security reasons, justices are permitted to use their office's resources in making plans, and the code even specifies that a justice may appear at the events where their books are being sold. Who cares about that, really? You know, but what have the court's critics say about the ethics code? Critics remain unsatisfied, particularly with the code's lack of enforcement provision. Progressive group Take Back the Court said in a statement, with 53 uses of the word should and only 6 of the words must, the court's new code of ethics reads a lot more like a friendly suggestion than a binding enforceable guideline. Another group, United for Democracy, said, while it's great to see the Supreme Court finally respond to public pressure and acknowledge that they have serious ethics and corruption issues that must be addressed, the Code of Ethics announced today is woefully inadequate. And I have to agree with that, right? So 53 uses of the word should and only 6 words containing must. Now, so I mean, to put that into perspective, there they put these rules in there like a judge should recuse himself if this or that, right? Or a judge should not do this, or a justice should do this, right? That's only like a suggestion there, right? Like that's not saying you have to do that, right? That's not actually a rule. It's just saying, well, you should consider this, right? Meanwhile, NYU School of Law professor Stephen Gillers called the code pretty decent. It is more detailed than I expected, Gillers said, even though there is no enforcement mechanism. So that's what so we'll go on that right there, and that may be the end of, yeah, that is the end of it. So anyways, so what I want to point out is, let's get down to this now, and point this out. The thing is, my problem is with this is, no matter which side you're from, the judges are realizing that a lot of people are getting upset with this stuff. So we're going to make ourselves look good, and we're going to come out with our own code of ethics, right? And meanwhile, there's no, and that's what the article's pointing out, and that's what a lot of critics are pointing out. I'm not trying to side with either Democrat or Republican. I'm doing this from a standpoint of us, we the people, and these people that's judging over us and living these extravagant lives and never facing any kind of repercussions from the laws they break. They're free to do whatever they want, and they can ruin other people's lives. Meanwhile, their lives are perfectly fine, right? Because there's no enforcement mechanism, they're saying. And that's totally true. What good is a code of ethics if there's no way to enforce it? So let's say you got a case before the Supreme Court, and for one reason or another, they should have, right? Like the ethics say is, they should do this or should not do that. Maybe the judge should have recused himself, or whatever the case may be, right? And so you got a valid complaint against her code of ethics. So let's say you submit your complaint, and but there's no enforcement. So, okay, we acknowledge you submitted your complaint, but go ahead and stick it, right? That's where that comes into play. But my other thing about this is, we don't realize, like I said, let's bring it back down to the lower court levels, and just look at some of the stuff going on in my case. As for an example, a lot of times I throw my case out there, and that's because I'm talking from experience. Okay, I have complaints about all the people involved in my case, and what it comes down to, let's just take for an example, now this is not a judge, but let's take my complaint against the sheriff. I've went to every resource I could go to about the sheriff here in Defiance County because of his actions against me, him robbing me at gunpoint, stealing my property, siding with the supposed bank which it wasn't even the bank, allowed somebody who wasn't even named on the court order to come in, steal my property, and now all of my personal property is completely gone. Okay, I'm a victim of this, and to this day, now it's now here in the next few days, it's as of the 19th, it'll be 3 months that they have stolen all of my personal property, and right down to my clothes, and refuse to give it back and tell me where it's at. Okay, and I submit my complaint, and there's other complaints I got against the sheriff. My rights were violated. You know how my whole case started out was corrupt sheriff's office, right? And then it went on to the the assistant city law director who was prosecuting the case, defending the state. And then my lawyer, and then this judge, right? And no matter where I go, everybody says, oh, you just stick it. There ain't nothing we can do about it. Oh, we can't do it because of this or that. Nobody can hold these people accountable to the law. And these are lower people. These ain't Supreme Court justices. You know what I'm saying? So what good is this? This is all smoke and mirrors. It's all, oh, we realize that people are getting a little upset, so here's how we're going to handle it. We're just going to say, oh, look at us. We're putting out a code of ethics there, and we should follow it, right? What good is that? Because that's what I'm saying. You take it on, I guarantee you right here in Ohio at least, if you complain about any judge, we'll see where it goes, right? Go ahead and complain. I've done that once before out of Williams County. I had a valid complaint against a judge breaking the rules, the code of ethics. Okay, and then my current case, I submitted my appeal, that twice the appeals court judges refuse. They said, well, this or that ain't on the record, even though I prove without a doubt that not only did the court, this local court, and this judge, plus the acting prosecutor have all violated the Ohio Code of Professional Conduct, right? And I looked up all this stuff, put all this research into it, and proved all these different areas where they violated those rules, and they just said, well, you go stick it. Okay, because one, these people are all together, right? They investigate themselves, and they're not going to find themselves guilty of anything. So you tell me that what good is the ethics code for the Supreme Court justices when we got ethics codes on your state level that nobody's enforcing? And there is, here on, they say there's no, down here they say there's no, how did they word it? That particularly the code lacks enforcement provision, right? So there's no, and which I understand that, and I understand the critics there, because they're saying there ain't even no enforcement for the provisions of this ethics code. But I say to you that even though when you take it down on lower levels, even though there are provisions for enforcement, when you go against the lower court judges or lawyers or prosecutors or whatever, there is provisions for enforcement, and none of them doing nothing about it. Why? Because they all belong to, we're all public Republicans or Democrats, so we're going to side with each other, or we all belong to the secret club that is technically, we claim, that has nothing to do with and does not interfere with our ability to do our job, but yet it does, because let's say this lawyer is a part of a group with that's certain club, I'll say for now, right, a certain secret order, that they are a member of the same order as the prosecutor and also the judge and also the cop, is all part of this secret order, and they say, well, that has nothing to do with our job. I assure you it does, because then when they're powering it up later on in their meetings or whatever, they claim this ain't what goes on, but I guarantee you it does. They're scratching each other's back and screwing you over, screwing we the people over. There's no, so I mean, my thing is, who cares about that there's a lack of enforcement provisions? I mean, we should care. There should be enforcement provisions in there. Otherwise, your code of conduct means nothing. A code of ethics means nothing, right? But my case right here locally proves that even though there is a code of provisions for enforcement of these codes, nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it. They're scratching each other's back. And this is where it comes down to, they got everybody so buffaloed with this divide and conquer thing, that Republicans and Democrats, left versus right, and that's not what's going on inside the system. Even though this person says they're a Republican, this person says they're a Democrat, it's all smoke and mirrors. Because the truth is, they're buddy-buddy with each other, helping each other out, and screwing we the people over, right? So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and that's really all I got for that for now. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps me out a lot against algorithms and stuff to help get. I really need some help getting my videos out there, getting YouTube to promote my stuff a little bit better, and so I can. So, you know, I got some better content planned, and a little bit of stuff that I've been working on. A lot of times I do videos that I don't quite publish them yet because of certain issues, reasons, because I'd like to have a little better viewing before some of that happens. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on this whole thing, and I'll see you in the next video.